Welcome back. Now, I've seen a few stars in my time on Expose, but I've never seen one that's 290 million years old.
That's how long it's taken for Ireland's first supernova to be spotted. Here to tell us more is stargazer David Moore from Astronomy Ireland. David, is this the matter that it blew up so long ago and so far away the light's only reaching us now, is it?
That's it, exactly. Space is a giant time machine. Even when you look at the sun, you're seeing as it was 8 minutes ago. The moon's about 1 second old. And when you look at the stars, they're typically tens to a few thousand years old when you actually see them. But this object is extremely far away, so it's taken the light 300 million years to get here. You can think of what was happening on the Earth 300 million years ago. The first animals, I think, were just crawling out of the sea.
What are we seeing there on the, besides, it looks like something you'd seen in a microscope to me. It's a few speckles.
This is the sort of unimpressive picture of the first ever supernova found from Ireland. It looks like a tiny dot, a star, and what David Grennan, who was our former vice chairman of Astronomy Ireland, used to write for our magazine all the time. He's obviously concentrating on setting records for this country now. He was photographing thousands of galaxies, and he has a robot telescope that he got, we sell them in our shop as well, and a digital camera and a computer system. And really, he's programmed everything so the computer takes pictures night after night. And then he has to look at them, see has anything changed. And 2,611 times, nothing happened. Until that night, a few weeks ago, when there was an extra dot, the one you see on the photograph there, that appeared in this little fuzzy galaxy, which is 300 million light years away. He reported
so the dot is...
Which dot is it there?
The dot is the one that's highlighted.
There's a tiny arrow
the
just next to it. I think there's a couple of red arrows there.
If they're behind you.
And he noticed that dot appeared, did he?
Yes, and if you have two pictures and you flash between them, one from the other, any difference does show up very, very quickly. So the pictures take a few minutes to take because this object is so faint. If he looked into his telescope, he would not see it. And he has, I think we have a picture of him in his observatory. He has one of the biggest telescopes we sell, a 14-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope.
Is that in Raheny, is it?
That's in Raheny,
yeah, in Dublin.
There's this observatory there, a simple observatory, more or less like a shed with a run-off roof. That's all you need these days. The telescopes are very compact. That telescope collects, I think, about 6,000 times more light than your eye does. The camera pushes that several hundred times further as well, and that enables him to see, you know, almost to the edge of the universe.
But he's not looking into that himself, scanning the heavens.
No.
It's all done, you said, it's a computer sequence as such.
Yeah, the telescope is on a robotic mount which moves the telescope with its camera attached to each galaxy one after the other. It takes a picture for several minutes, again automatically. It takes a while to set this up, but we can explain it to anyone who wants to get in on this, how to do it. And the next day you have all these pictures. And you have a picture of the galaxy before and your latest picture, and you look to see did anything change. And an asteroid in our solar system might pass in front of it. A star that's in our own galaxy, relatively close, might flare up in brightness, and it could be that. So you have to rule out all those, which was done finally a week ago on Monday night, and it was confirmed to be a supernova, an exploding star, which means it's a million times brighter than the sun. He picked it up just as it was flaring up, and it'll last for several months at that kind of brightness. The supernova are just way beyond their everyday
Does it get named
experience.
after him, or does it get some technical name with a load of digits and letters on it?
Well, Dave was in the news 2 years ago, in fact, when he discovered an asteroid, which you are allowed to name after somebody. You can't name it after yourself, but he actually named it after his mother, who passed away a few years earlier, Catherine Griffin, using her maiden name, because he can't use his surname because that's against the rules as well, so he used her maiden name. So there's an asteroid named after his mother, but afraid with supernovae you can't name them. It gets a very unromantic name of 2010 IK.
So that's a good ring to it, does it?
But we'll call it the Irish supernova. For a long time.
So it is the first one discovered from Ireland. Like, did these crop up, or are these discovered pretty regularly around the globe?
Yeah, there are professional telescopes, like Dave's, only even bigger, in sites where it's clear every night, scanning the skies, looking at thousands more galaxies, looking for these. So Dave's competing with all those, and that's why it's important he put Ireland on the map. Despite our weather, which is mostly cloudy, the fact that he's got a smaller telescope, that he does this in his spare time, he works in the computer business himself, he still managed to find one that nobody else had seen. And so he reported this, and it turns out it's slightly unusual as supernovae go, and they're going to study this one in particular a lot more than the average supernova to see why is it peculiar, what can it tell us about supernovae, because you and I are here because of a supernova that happened at least 5 billion years ago.
I was going to ask, what does it all mean now that we've discovered this? I don't know. I mean, does it mean anything to us, really?
Well, supernova are very important because some of the trace elements in your body, zinc, without which you couldn't live, gold in your jewellery, for instance, all comes from these giant stars that explode. And we'll have a full article in the next issue of our magazine. One diagram we're going to put in is one that shows the Earth. It's just 100 times... the Sun is 100 times wider than the Earth, so the Earth's tiny compared to the Sun, and this star would be gigantic compared to the Sun. And it's what blew itself to smithereens. And these are nuclear explosions. So this is worse than high explosive going off. And you can imagine that amount of explosives going off. If it were to happen with any of the stars that you can see in the night sky tonight, it would sterilise all life on the Earth and any other planets for several hundred light years away. So you don't want them going off nearby. It's just as well it happened 300 million light years away.
Just as well, David. Listen,
Thanks very much
for that. Thank you so much for that. Brilliant stuff.
My pleasure.
Now,